In my last vlog, I mentioned that I was reading East of Eden, but I didn't get super in depth with it because it is quite a long book. So I kind of wanted to just dedicate an entire video to talking about it. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about yet with it. I haven't really prepared anything. I'm currently on page 184, chapter 17. So I'm about 1/3 of the way through the book because it's about 600 pages. I guess we can kind of try and talk about this in sections. So the first section was devoted mostly to Charles and Adam's childhood. Charles and Adam Trask are brothers. There are parallels between them and Cain and Abel, which is pretty well known about this book. I think there are several characters who are going to parallel that story. I actually think that's even on the back. The Trasks and the Hamiltons, which are the two main families that will follow, whose generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. C for Charles, like Cain. A for Adam, like Abel. Also just his literal name being Adam. I don't think I want to give like a full in-depth synopsis, but maybe just talk about some things I found interesting. So I really loved the section after Charles and Adam have a fight, if you want to call it. It's really just Charles basically attempting to murder his brother, but just unsuccessfully doing so. He's an interesting character because he doesn't even really, I don't think he hates his brother. I think he loves his brother more than anybody else. Maybe he loves his father more. But for Charles, love and hatred are two sides of the same coin. And he's just such an intensely feeling person that anger and violence just come out when he feels these intense emotions. Specifically after Charles tries to kill Adam and Adam hides in like a dirt ditch. Adam's stepmother, which is Charles's birth mother, cleans Adam up afterwards, and she says, "He's a strange boy. You have to know him. All rough shell, all anger, until you know." She paused to cough, leaned down and coughed, and when the spell was over, her cheeks were flushed and she was exhausted. "You have to know him," she repeated. "For a long time, he has given me little presents. Pretty things you wouldn't think he'd even notice. But he doesn't give them right out. He hides them where he knows I'll find them. And you can look at him for hours and he won't ever give the slightest sign he did it. You have to know him." She smiled at Adam and he closed his eyes. This part is really heartbreaking because it wasn't Charles who gave her any of those things, it was Adam. So throughout his childhood, he's always had like a little bit of a separation from his stepmother, but he was always fascinated by her. So he left her little gifts of, I can't remember what they were, but maybe like a rock or something that was like nicely shaped. Like he would just leave it and sit from far away and watch her reaction. And he said it was the only times that he would ever see her smile or show some sort of like shedding of this hard exterior, which is another theme. There's a lot of women in this book who have hard exteriors, Adam's mother being one, and then when we get introduced to the Hamiltons a little bit later, Mrs. Hamilton, she's got this really intense religious conviction that is like arguably a hard exterior. And then Kathy, of course, who is totally void of human emotions really, but she has this like hard exterior of extreme warmth. She masks the dark interior by presenting this really like beautiful, lovely, bubbly, perfect woman exterior, and that's how she protects herself from being found out as like a horrible person. That just was a really heartbreaking section to find out that like this whole time, this bit of connection that Adam was trying to have with his mother, or his stepmother rather, was being perceived as something that her son Charles was doing for her that whole time. And I have written here the ways that parents and loved ones will try to justify the actions of a terrible, violent person because they love them. That is also a theme that's discussed, I guess, in our next section, is Adam seems to be a character who has immense faith, which definitely symbolic of the biblical Adam. Adam Trask, he trusts his father, even though his father was like a liar throughout his entire career. Like he was in the war for a very short amount of time and then came back, but like manufactured these memories of being at all these crazy battles and talking to all these like really high up people in the army. And then eventually, like, he started believing his own lies and other people believed him, and he became like a very high ranking military official based on his lies. So like lies becoming truth. Charles finds out after their father's death that like those were probably lies, and Adam sees the evidence, but he's like, no, I choose not to believe that. Like, I don't really care. I trust my father, and like I don't want to deal with that. Adam is also with Kathy later, who is like the embodiment of a lie. Like, she is just totally incongruous, like what's inside and what's outside. And Adam chooses, I think he's choosing to see what he wants to see. Like, everybody who interacts with her always kind of walks away with a little bit of like the heebie-jeebies, because they can tell like something's not right about her. Like, she's an alien or something. But Adam sees her and he's just like immediately in love and smitten. And there's a really beautiful quote about how he feels about her. So this is Adam talking about when he met Kathy. A kind of light spread out from her, and everything changed color. The world opened up, and today was a good day to awaken to, and there were no limits to anything, and the people of the world were good and handsome, and I was not afraid anymore. Which is also really significant for Adam, because he spent so much of his childhood in fear of Charles, because as much as he loved Charles, just who Charles is, Charles can only love you safely if there's nothing to be jealous of. Adam figured out from a very young age, from getting beat up by Charles, that he could win at games, but he had to be prepared to kill his brother if that was like what he chose to do. So he spent so much time in fear, but then when he went away, he was sent to the army, which is another parallel with the biblical Adam, is that his father sent him away, even though Adam was like clearly not cut out for the military and killing other people. Like, it really deeply affected him to be a part of the army, yet he chose to stay, re-enlist a few times, because there wasn't really home to go back to, because his father was no longer at home, and Charles was there and waiting for him, and they had a really great relationship. Like, they were writing letters back and forth to one another while Adam was away, but like he could still feel it, and as the reader you can feel it too, that like even though Charles was writing to him and loved him, Charles's love is not exclusive from his violence. As with many people, Charles, who could not talk, wrote with fullness. He set down his loneliness and his perplexities, and he put on paper many things he did not know about himself. During the time Adam was away, he knew his brother better than ever before or afterward. In the exchange of letters, they grew a closeness neither of them could have imagined. I really liked that quote a lot, because I think it applies to just like writers in general, or just writing rather, because I think there's something about writing even a text message or an email and having that sort of correspondence with somebody that is different than when you speak with someone. I guess it's having the opportunity to like think more deeply and edit before you send something over, and sometimes just real speed and just the barriers that come from being like perceived by a person. It makes the message get muddy sometimes, which is what I love about writing, because a lot of those barriers seem to fall away. And it was really interesting that Charles, who is like fundamentally not a good person, he still has these really relatable qualities about him. Okay, moving further along, I'm also so interested in Kathy's character. I always enjoy a character who is putting on a facade, who is something inside and something totally different outside. Those are always really fascinating characters to me, because they kind of take to the extreme something that everybody does a bit. Everybody's kind of masking, so I think, in some way. Like, the you are inside is different than the you that people see. Like, you're the only person who has access to and knows like all the intricacies of what's going on inside your head, no matter how hard you try to communicate it with like speech or writing, whatever medium. It's like not the same as being inside of your head. So what I love about books is we get to be inside of Kathy's head and just see how vast the difference is between inner Kathy and outer Kathy. And I think, as horrible of a person as she is, like, that's no question that she's like an immoral person. It also kind of feels like it's not her fault. Like, when she's introduced, John Steinbeck kind of wrote about it the way that like sometimes people are born with a deformity, where like you have an extra limb, or like something's wrong physically with your body that isn't typical of a healthy body. And in the same way, like if physical deformities are things that exist and that just happen and we have to learn to deal with, are not mental deformities kind of the same way? And I suppose this kind of like can be kind of like understood through the lens of like mental illness. But Kathy is just like a person who is devoid of emotion and who just does things to like see what will happen and just serve her own interest. It shows her from a child just doing things to see if she can get away with it, basically. She doesn't even seem to get angry with people that she hurts so much. She just seems to think about it really analytically in a way of, this person is getting in my way, I'm going to eliminate them from the equation so that I can get my way. And it doesn't even seem like a personal vendetta against anybody. It's just like purely mathematical, like in her mind. I really enjoy reading about her because there's nothing I hate more than an illogical villain. A person who just like performs villainy just for really lazy reasons of like, I just want to see the world burn. Like at first in her childhood, Kathy was doing things just to see if she would get away with it, but even that is logical to an extent because it's like I'm gonna use a Jurassic Park reference. The raptors in the park, they would test all the boundaries of the fences. They would look for weak spots to see, will I get shocked right here? Do I get shocked less here? So that they could eventually escape. And that's essentially what she was doing in her childhood. Like, how far can I go and how much can I manipulate people to get what I want? Like, that's like what she was doing. So even that like had purpose. And everything she does has like such a clear logical purpose of being self-serving. So obviously I don't agree with the things she does even if they're logical, but I do appreciate the craft in her character because I just really can't stand when a character is bad just to be bad and doesn't get explained. So I really like that. That's all I've got for right now. I've got to go because I'm going to game night. So I will check back in some other time and talk about some more things that I like.